More features do not equal more value. It's easy to add another module, another bonus, another PDF. We were giving more, but it felt to them like they were getting less because they couldn't get through it all. Simple is not a lesser version of your program. Complexity is often a confidence issue, and it's dressed up like a content issue. And retention is really what builds a business. If you do these 3 things consistently, your life will change. Today, I want to talk about something that took me longer to learn than I'd like to admit. More features do not equal more value. I used to think that if I just packed my programs with content, like information, guides for them to use, everything under the sun, that more content would get better results. And that actually does not exist. In fact, the opposite was true. I've watched coaches spend months building out programs that are so absolutely packed, and they feel like it's gold because it has a ton of content in there. Maybe 12 modules, workbooks for every lesson, bonus trainings, resource libraries, private podcasts, everything. But the truth is that it's overwhelming for the people going through it. Those coaches then launch their programs and their members or their buyers feel completely overwhelmed and not supported. And the same thing happened with me. We get asked all the time to add different features or new elements inside of our membership program. And what we found is that when we do that, it gets diluted. Now, yes, we will be offering a new tier of the membership, which will service a different need for our clients. It will be there for delivery. Our clients right now, they get access to a full content hub inside of the Wellness Vault. And this gives them customizable meal plans and guides and protocols for their clients. And now we are working on the delivery side as well, where they will be able to keep their client accountable with a food log, with being able to deliver full programs, with keeping them accountable through a chat and communities feature. But that is a different tier entirely of the membership. We're not just packing in new features into what already exists. Because when we've done that, we have found that there is less perceived value. So even though there's more for people to consume and get, they actually have a harder time going through it, and therefore they feel like they are not getting the full value. What happens is that when people see so much on the board, they see that there's so much available to them, and they don't have the time to go through it all, they actually feel like they're not getting what they paid for. When in reality, if they even just go through one of those features or one of those things, they have gotten way more than what they have paid for. I want you to think today about how this happens, why we fall into this trap, and what actual alternatives look like. Because simple is not lazy. Simple is the version of good. Simple is the hardest thing to build. And that is the thing that actually changes lives. So let's go ahead and get into it. Before we talk about the solution, I want to spend a few minutes on why this actually happens, because it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from the best place possible. When we overcomplicate our offers, it's because we care. We're health coaches, or nutrition, or fitness coaches, or functional practitioners. We have years of education and training, and we know our clients' health is connected to a whole bunch of different things. It could be their sleep, their stress levels, the way they're eating, their nutrition and their fitness and their gut and everything under the sun, right? We see the whole picture. So when we sit down to build a program, we want to give them everything. We want to hand them everything we know because we genuinely believe it can help. But unfortunately, it's too much. That's the problem. Here is the thing about our clients. They don't come to us wanting the whole picture. They come wanting to solve one thing that's keeping them up at night. They want to lose weight or feel less tired or stop bloating or finally have the energy to play with their kids when they get home from school. Maybe not snap on their husband because they have just so much going on and they're losing control. That's the lens that they are looking through when they walk through the door. So when we hand them the whole picture on day one, We're not helping them. We're overwhelming them. We're adding more to their plate. We're essentially saying, here's everything that can go wrong, and here's everything you need to fix. Even if we do not mean to do it that way, that's how it often lands when there's just too much for them to consume. So here's a concept that I heard a while back, and it has stuck with me. It's that idea of lose the sale line. The idea that in a presentation or a coaching program, there's a line where you can cross where you've gone into too much detail, too much of the practical step-by-step information that the person shuts down rather than getting excited. So they're not ready to commit and take action because they are starting to feel like there's just too much and that they can't do it. They came in wanting to solve something, and then you've piled 12 or 15 different things on top of that, and they feel hopeless. They feel like the problem is getting bigger rather than becoming solved. So we do the same thing in our programs. We pile everything in, and the result is that the client does not feel like they're winning. They feel like they're falling behind. Let's get a little deeper here because this is where the conversation gets really interesting. I have seen this play out in my business in a way that genuinely has surprised me. So inside the Wellness Vault, we build a software and tools for health and wellness coaches. We get tons of feature requests. Our members will frequently tell us that, they want to all of a sudden they want us to build newsletters for them or slideshows or whatever it may be that we currently do not have in the Wellness Vault. And for a while, we started to entertain those things. We would add more, but then we noticed that people were falling out, that our cancellation rate was going up the more that we added, that people were replying back to us for the reasons that they canceled because there was too much and they couldn't find what they needed. It sounds backwards. We were adding to the platform. We were giving more, but it felt to them like they were getting less because they couldn't get through it all, right? But it makes sense when we really think about it as a consumer standpoint. When you start on something new, when you first log in and there's so many different places and so much for you to do, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to think about how you're going to dive into that. So let's think about it for a second. Think about a gym membership that you've had at some point in your life, or maybe that you still have. You're going there 3 times a week. You love the classes you attend. You're getting results, but you walk by a smoothie bar and the sauna and the racquetball court and that you never use. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking, gosh, am I paying for all this even though I'm just attending like 1 class or 3 classes a week, right? The reality is that yes, you probably are getting the value that you paid for, but there's all these other things that you see inside of the gym that you are not using, that you feel like maybe you're overpaying because that stuff is available. When in reality, you're not overpaying. You're getting the value that you want. You're getting the result. You're going to the classes. You're getting more fit, but it's all that other stuff that's making you feel like you're missing out on something and like you're overpaying. So sit with that for a minute. See if that makes sense. Let me reframe what value actually means, because I think we've gotten this wrong as an industry. Value is not the number of things that you offer, the amount of information that you push on your client. Value is the distance between where your client is when they start and where they are when they're finished with you. And that's it. That's the whole thing. It's how far they've come. It's the progress that they've made. If someone comes into your program feeling bloated or exhausted, and then 3 months later, they have consistent energy and they know exactly what to eat for their body, you've delivered enormous value. It doesn't matter what they went through in order to get there. Some coaches, maybe they met with them, 3 or 4 times a week and they had to go through this long training and they had to watch all the modules and follow this exact plan. Where another coach might have done something much more simple where they maybe had them track their food, or they maybe gave them a simple recipe pack and had them choose which meals that they were going to, eat on repeat for the week. Just 3 meals, have that on repeat for all of your dinners this week. It might have been much more simple than that. The simplest path to transformation, it's actually the most valuable thing that you can give them. Here's something I want you to think about. So most of the coaches that I work with dramatically underestimate the value of a single focus for their client. They feel like their offer doesn't cover enough or doesn't offer enough, or like they can't charge enough if they're not talking about nutrition, fitness, sleep, mindset, stress, hormones, all at the same time. They feel like their program's not comprehensive enough. So they keep adding to it. But the truth is that if your client came to you feeling like she couldn't, achieve something, whether that be weight loss or sleep through the night, and you get her in a place where everything is moving so fast and the transformation is worth so much to her, but she needs to do all of this stuff in order to get there, it's going to feel exhausting. Like she's taken on something that she can't handle sustainably, that she can't continue with long term. So here's an example. One monthly meal plan and the ability to track macros, committing to 1 or 2 habits a week, that's it. That could be your entire offer. I know it sounds simple, almost too simple, that you feel like maybe it's not enough. But I'll tell you something, that simple structure done consistently can change somebody's health trajectory in a way that years from now, they're not chasing complicated issues. And they didn't have to follow a complicated protocol to get there. So they're going to come back to you. They're going to refer people to you because you made it doable. You made it possible. The client can actually follow it. Every week they show up and they've done the thing that they've committed to. So simple is not a lesser version of your program. Simple is the version that your client can actually use and commit to. When I first started out coaching, I made this mistake. I packed everything into my programs, and so much of it was just information. It wasn't necessarily something that could be used. It wasn't a tool or something of use to my clients. It was more just information that I wanted them to go through and then try, 1 or 2 practical steps to go along with it, but on so many different topics. And if I'm being honest, when I first started, I wasn't able to retain too many of my clients. Some of them stuck around, others of them, stayed with me for the 6 to 8 weeks, and then that was it. And then I never heard from them again. As I started to simplify things and pull things back, that's when I created some momentum. And that's when I created retention with my clients. And retention is really what builds a business. We've talked about this a lot. When people stay, when they refer back to you, when they come back for the next level of what they're trying to achieve, that's when your business scales and grows. So again, what we want to do is simplify, make things easier for your client. Just like I talk so often about making things easier for you, kind of like the next tier of the membership that we are offering of the Wellness Vault, we're offering a new tier very soon that is going to make your delivery and your communication with your client so much easier for you and for them. It's going to simplify it from a coaching perspective. So I want you to think about this. Simple is harder to build than complex. It is, genuinely. You have to think about what are the things that my client actually wants and how can I take things away in order to give them only the things that they need. That's challenging. It's easy to add another module, another bonus, another PDF. Adding feels comfortable because it feels like you're delivering, but it's unproductive. So subtracting oftentimes is hard, making it easier for them to make choices. It requires you to trust that the focused version of your program is enough, which means trusting yourself and your method. A lot of coaches aren't there yet, and that's okay. But I want to name it because I think complexity is often a confidence issue and it's dressed up like a content issue. So when you're truly confident about your framework, you do not need to prove it with volume. You can hand someone a meal plan or a tracking tool or one weekly habit and say, if you do these 3 things consistently, your life will change. And that statement comes from a place of deep knowing. It does not need to be buried inside of 30 modules and tons of paperwork to be true. This is also, by the way, what makes you easier to market. When your offer is simple, you can message it simply. You can explain exactly what it is and who it's for. The person on the back end that wants that product will know immediately, is this good for me or is this not? Is this something that I want to invest in or is it not? So clarity in the offer creates clarity in your marketing, and clarity in the marketing creates conversions. It's all connected. You get more conversions, you get better results, you get happy clients, and your business scales. So if this episode resonated with you, go ahead and share it with a friend. Also, we would be so grateful for a 5-star review And if you haven't checked out the Wellness Vault, you should get in there. We're there helping wellness coaches, and we hope to see you guys on the next one. I hope you enjoyed our conversation from today. Any links we discussed will be in the show notes below. Also, we would be incredibly grateful if you would leave us a 5-star review. This helps us keep the podcast going so that we can continue to provide value for all of you. I hope we see you on the next one.